Chapter 1. Killer Education. One night in the dead of winter in Cheyenne, Wyoming, 1960, Russell Bridges stood on the side of the stage watching a riot unfold. Bridges had just warmed up the crowd of about 400 with his band, the rest of whom were at that moment blazing on stage with Jerry Lee Lewis now at the piano. The truth is, this crowd had not needed any warming up. Despite the icy conditions outside, these cowboys and cowgirls were primed and pumped to see the killer, no matter that Lewis was now at the nadir of a career that had taken off like a rocket only to crash down to earth. Only 3 years earlier, the news of his marriage, already his third, at the age of 22, to his 13-year-old cousin, Myra, daughter of his bandmate and cousin J.W. Brown, had caused an uproar. Old Jerry Lee was determined to get back on top, but for now, he would drive his Cadillac to wherever he could collect a few $100, performing solo or with a local pickup band. Or, as on this cold night in Cheyenne, with whatever musicians he could afford to take along. Like Russell Bridges, who had been playing the clubs and bars of Tulsa since he was 14. Oklahoma was a dry state, with liquor sales prohibited, so being an underage performer at nightclubs was not a pressing issue. In the post-war years, Tulsa was the oil capital of the world, even weathering the Great Depression pretty well, unlike the rest of the Dust Bowl state, with a flourishing Art Deco building boom through the 1930s. Bridges' own Will Rogers High School is a prime example of the architectural style. Although ostensibly dry, the clubs were filled with beer and illegal hard booze, and young performers had no trouble getting a drink at these gigs. I worked a beer joint club from 6 till 11, and then a private club from midnight to 5 a.m. I barely had time to sober up for school, Bridges recalled later. One club I played at quite a lot paid $10 a night and all you could drink, and I drank all of it. By the time I finished high school, I was drinking at least a pint of hard liquor a day. It was at a gig at Tulsa's legendary Cain's Ballroom where Bridges and his band, the Starlighters, had first met and performed with Jerry Lee Lewis. The place had been put on the map by Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys, who broadcast their unique brand of Western swing on KVOO from 1934 to 1942. The Starlighters were a top band in Tulsa, too. We were mostly an instrumental band, sax player Johnny Williams said, and they would back national acts who came through. Anybody that would come into town, whether it was Frogman Henry or really anybody, it didn't matter. Bridges was already commonly regarded as the best pianist in Tulsa, and the first on the scene to mic his instrument and run it through an amplifier. At some of the clubs the Starlighters played, they would be lucky to show up and the piano was playable, never mind in tune. But Bridges could make an old box sound like a Steinway. As fans, the band was understandably thrilled to back Jerry Lee Lewis for his Cain's Ballroom show. By the time he'd reached Tulsa, Jerry Lee was exasperated, battling the bottle, and at his lowest ebb, having done a stretch of about 10 shows with 10 different bands. When he heard the Starlighters, his mood swung to exuberance. Bridges had made sure the band knew all of Jerry Lee's material in the correct keys by showtime. After their first warm-up set, Lewis came up onto the bandstand and, indicating Bridges, declared, "I'm not going to sit down at that piano. He plays a lot better piano than I do." The Starlighters had ripped through one song after another that first performance together. When they were done, a sweaty and spent Jerry Lee said, "Well, shit, you guys have got to come on the road with me." Lewis was not sure how, economically, he'd be able to take the band out. The boys would have gone for nothing, and that's not much less than what they ultimately got. Bridges had just completed 3 days of entrance exams for the University of Tulsa, but quickly decided college and ROTC were not as compelling as a chance to hit the road with one of his heroes.